Alright, so today we're going to be talking about deciduous conifers. Now, first question you might ask is, what is a deciduous conifer? Well, it's a coniferous tree that's also deciduous. Now, what does that mean? Well, it's a tree that looks sort of like a pine tree, an evergreen tree. It produces cones, like pine cones, but of course, they wouldn't be pine cones. It'd either be a larch cone or a Dawn Redwood cone. So they produce cones, and they're also deciduous, so even though they look like an evergreen tree, all these needles, they actually turn yellow and orange, and they fall off the tree in the wintertime. So it's a very rare, unique tree to work with. There's some fantastic shape to the needles. Whenever I think of this Dawn Redwood, I kind of always, look at the foliage. I kind of think of a mixture between a pine tree, a palm tree, and a deciduous tree. It's got very kind of palm tree-like foliage when you look up close, kind of like a palm tree leaf. But then when you look at the whole thing, it's kind of like a pine tree. So very interesting. These larches, they also have sort of these more pom-pom kind of growth foliage, so that's also interesting. It changes colors from lime green in springtime to dark green in summer to yellow and orange and just the bare branches in the wintertime. So it's a very interesting tree to work with in bonsai, and I'm actually going to be making this video in segments, so you can see the green foliage it has now, and I'm going to come back in a few weeks and show you the yellow foliage and then the orange foliage and do the next segment of this video. Alright, well here we are with the update. It's now November. It's been a couple of weeks since I shot the last video. And as you can see, the Dawn Redwood and the Larch, they're in their fall colors. In a couple of weeks here we'll be losing all the needles. So, if someone didn't know that this was a deciduous conifer, they might start freaking out that it's dying. The same thing happens with the Pond Cypress. All the leaves fall off. And this is completely normal. Just another interesting aspect of these trees. So some of the sort of benefits to having these tree species as bonsai is that they are very easy to style. They produce a good number of ramification, and they've got this sort of evergreen look to them, but they have little to no care in the wintertime since all the needles fall off. You don't need to keep maintaining it in the winter. Alright, so let's take a minute to talk about the trunk thickness. Pond Cypress and a Pond Cypress, I would think that they have an average rate of growth, just because I haven't worked with them, so I'm just taking a wild guess based on what I know about plants. The Dawn Redwood, it's a very fast growing tree, so if you're looking to go from a seedling to a bonsai tree, Dawn Redwood is a good way to go because it's going to produce a lot of fast growth. You can grow it really big, trunk chop the tree, and work on styling. It's very fast. Larches, they tend to be very, they have very thick thin trunks. It's very hard to thicken a trunk on a larch, so if you get a larch, you kind of have to style it in the natural growing method. It won't really thicken that much. You have to take in that to consideration. So that's a deal with the trunk thicknesses. For the most part, if you general care for deciduous conifers is to keep the soil moist. None of them really like it too dry. The larch, it's sort of moist soil. The Dawn Redwood likes really wet soil, and then Pond Cypress and Pond Cypress, they like it really wet. They can even grow submerged in swamps. So going from the larch to the Dawn Redwood to the cypress trees, it sort of gets from moist to wetter. that kind of gradient of soil moistness. The last thing, I guess, fertilizer for these trees, pretty basic. I use 20-20-20, equal ratio fertilizer, just general, what you would use on other bonsai trees. In the fall and winter time, you want to cut down that first number, which is nitrogen, and just have the two other numbers, potassium and phosphorus, have those in the fertilizer. Pretty basic stuff. They're interesting trees to work with. I recommend, if you're trying to get into bonsai, you look into these trees. Once again, hit the subscribe button at the top. I'll be making new videos. If you subscribe, you'll be notified when I make a new one.